Hi, this is Mel with We Can Code It. I'm going to walk you through database design today, and an MVC project. We'll be doing database first, data first, MVC in C# Visual Studio. It's part of the ASP.NET framework here. But I want you to think about your database first, and we're going to start in database first mode, and we're just going to jump right into SQL Server Management Studio. I have 2014 installed here. You might have a different version. That's okay. It's pretty much the same look and feel for the Management Studio, and you should be able to translate pretty easily. For Visual Studio, I'm using Visual Studio 2015. Again, it's similar enough that you should be able to get an understanding of what I'm doing. Between versions like 2013, you should understand it, or at least be able to figure it out. However, I just want to alert you to the tools I am using. What we're going to be creating is a website that is going to act as a video rental application. You might think of the story as this. I own a video store. I have employees who work there, and they're going to set up customers. They're going to insert and view movies, and they're going to, most importantly, handle the checkouts of these movies. So we're going to have a rental aspect to this as well, where we'll have to have rental information that has to do with the customer who is registered, the movie that's in our database, and then the rental will sort of hook those two things together and throw a date in there as well. I'm going to start by showing you an overview in SQL Server Management Studio. This is a database diagram of what we're doing here. So we have movies. I'm going to have a movie ID, which is a primary key. It's an identifier for each individual movie, sort of like, think about Social Security numbers in the United States. Each individual has a Social Security number that uniquely identifies them. So if there are two John Smiths, they can be identified by their Social Security number. That's what will tell you that this John Smith is the John Smith you're looking for. That's how movies are too. You want a movie ID? We're going to put a title in there, a director, a genre, and a price. So eventually you can search by genre or director. I'm not going to go that far in our MVC tutorial, but that's why they're there. Price, obviously, you can do lots of fun things with this, like, tell the person how much they owe. Again, I'm not going to dig deep in there. We're just going to set up the basics. It's up to you to play around with the rest. The other major table is the customers table. Like I said, customers are going to be able to rent these movies, right? So let's get a first name, last name, and a phone. We'll also ensure that we have a customer ID, which is the primary key, and that customer ID will uniquely identify that particular customer. Finally, we're going to create a simple rentals table. It will have a rental ID, and it will join the movie by the movie ID and the customer by using the customer ID to any particular rental. And we'll also throw a date in here. Alrighty, let's go ahead. Let me show you how to create a new database. So I already have this one set up, but I'm going to start from scratch for you so you see how I can do it. I opened up SQL Server Management Studio, and I'm going to right click on databases and select new database, and a new window will appear. I'm going to call this movie, I'll just call it movies DB because I already have a movie DB, so I'll call this movies DB. After that, that's all good. Just hit OK. So let's right click on databases and click refresh, and hopefully we'll see it in here. Here it is, movies DB. This Object Explorer window doesn't refresh automatically, so often we have to right-click and choose Refresh from the drop-down there in order to see any changes that we made. So I'm going to go ahead and expand the Movies DB. So this is a database that will hold our information. And again, we're going to create 3 tables: Movies, Customers, and Rentals. This view is a database diagram from a previous movie DBs that I made. I'm just using it for to show you the end goal here. So first thing we want to do is let's create a table. Let's right click on tables, and we'll do this in design view. We're not going to write a SQL statement for it. We're going to use the editor, the WYSIWYG editor, okay, that we can easily plug things into. And we just start typing. Let's start typing column name. Well, let's say this is going to be for our customers, let's say. Okay, let's create our customer table. Customer ID. Notice I'm using Pascal case here. It's going to be a type of integer, and we don't want null values. Why is it type integer? Because this is going to be my primary key, and I'm going to have it auto increment for me, so I don't have to type this stuff out. It's just going to say, okay, the first one you put in, we'll throw that at 1. The second customer you enter, I'll automatically adjust that to 2, etc. So I don't want it to have null values. I want these values, I want this to always have an integer value. Okay, otherwise it's going to mess my system up big time. Let's create a primary key on this by right-clicking after we've done this bit. Let's right-click on this area right here and click Set Primary Key. Hey, look, we just set the primary key to this customer ID field. Now, while I'm at it, on the right here under Properties, this is for the table. We could name it if we want here. I'm going to call this Customers, and it's in the database MovieDB. Great. This is all great. Here's the server name. Identity column. This is a big deal. This is, remember I was telling you the auto increment bit? This is telling it, yeah, use the customer ID to do that, okay? Okay, so fill out that identity column after you select the primary key. Now let's continue. And I said first name, Pascal case. We're going to call this a nvarchar 50. That's good. This is a variable length character. 50 is the length here. N means Unicode. Do I want to allow nulls? Sure. If I were being really particular, I might force the user to give me their first name. But let's just be easy on ourselves right now as we're learning databases and allow nulls. Now let's go to last name. That's another field I want. And varchar 50 is all good. And sure, we'll allow nulls. What else do we want? Phone. That sounds good. Let's make this an nvarchar. And let's set it to 20. Allow nulls, sure. If you wanted to add email, that would be great. Other identifying characteristics for this customer, that's great. And let's just assume that's all we want for right now. And go ahead and click this floppy disk up here to save customers. If you didn't change the name of your database over here, what will prompt you for a name after you click Save. So again, if we expand tables, there we go, we'll see it. If you don't see it, if tables is already expanded, just right-click tables and hit refresh, okay? Now, let's create another table. Just like we did before, we're going to right-click on tables under the database that we're using. And here we go, we're in the designer mode. Now let's make one for movies. What do we need? Movie ID, int, an integer, and no way, we don't want to allow nulls because it's going to be the primary key. I right-clicked on the column and chose it, chose primary key, and now I'm going to go to identity column and just get this out of the way. Click movie ID. Yes, that's the one that we want to increment automatically. Let's put a title in here, nvarchar. Let's give this a little more space. Let's say 100. Allow nulls. Okay. You can take that off if you want. I'm just going to do this just so we move through it quickly. Let's now add the director. This will pull the director's name. nvarchar, let's make that nvarchar 100 for a length of 100. Good. And what else? You could have put genre. That's one of the other things I had in here. Genre. That's also an varchar. We can make that 50. You could put things like date released if you want, any other information about the film, description, stuff like that. Do I think this is enough? Yeah, I think this is fine for this demo. So I'm going to go ahead and click Control S. You can also, that saves it. You can also hit the little save icon over here that looks like a disk. This time I didn't change the name over in the Properties window. It still says Table 1. It knows that I need to change this, and let's call this Movies. Enter. Okay, since I had the tables open, I had it expanded, this tables folder view. That means I need to refresh it because it won't show up automatically, and there we go. There's Movies. Finally, let's create the Rentals table. Rentals will hook up the other two tables, will relate the other two tables so that many customers can have many movies. Okay? Save. And many movies can have many customers, by the way. That's many-to-many relationship here. And so we want this linking table. First thing I'm going to do, there's a couple different ways I can go about this. I'm going to keep this super simple, though, and I'm going to create an ID field for this table as well. And we'll call it Rental ID, make it an int, don't allow nulls. Let's go ahead, right-click on the column itself, choose Set Primary Key. This will be our primary key, and then make it an identity column. All right? Good. Now the other two, what do we want? We need the customer ID, correct? Remember, that's the ID from the other table. Customer ID, you have to maintain the same data type as you had in the other table. In the other table, if I expand this, you'll see that customer ID is an int. Okay, and we won't allow it to be null because this is required. Okay, it's required for this table. You don't want to let a customer out the door without them checking out the movie. They just walk out with the movie, right? Okay. Last column, well, maybe not last. Next column will be movie ID. Could I have put movie ID before customer ID? Sure. Okay, no nulls. Finally, let's add a date. Sure, date rented. That's fine. Okay. And then we can make this a date time and don't allow nulls. Good. So let me go ahead and change the name right here in the Properties window for this table, and we'll call this Rentals. I'm going to hit Control S, clicking Control and S at the same time, and it saves it for me. Good, good, good. Our next step is to move over into Visual Studio. And we're going to create a movie application. I'm going to go up to File. This is 2015, by the way. File, New, Project. I'm in C# mode, and I'm going to click Web Templates over on the left. And then right up here, you'll see ASP.NET Web Application. We're going to call this Movie Application. Okay. If you want to add it to source control, here you go. If you use source control, please check this. And all is well in the world right now. Click Save. Okay, now I told you we're going to create an MVC, a Model View Controller application. So let's use this template. It's the MVC template. It's going to scaffold or create a bunch of common files for us as we start. And then add folders and core references for MVC will be checked. We're going to keep the authentication the same for right now, and we're not going to worry about hosting it. We're just playing around. Hit OK. And it's going to take a few minutes, or maybe not a few minutes, but a few moments to scaffold all of this. And if you look down at the bottom, you'll see all the stuff that's going on. Adding Microsoft jQuery, and it tells you all the stuff it's adding to the project. So this is built, again, it's the MVC template that Microsoft provides to you in Visual Studio when we create the MVC type of application. And if you haven't played around with MVC before, you'll wonder where in the world all these files are coming from. Again, they are scaffolded files. I'm not going to go into them fully in this tutorial. This is mostly about using database first if you already understand the basics of the MVC. However, views folder, models folder, controllers folder right there. And there's some extra folders. Okay, first thing I want to do, since we use database first, we're going to start off in the models folder. I'm going to right click the models. Let's try this again. I'm not trying to rename it. Right click it. And let's try this again. And I'm going to go to add. What am I going to add? A new item. Okay? Right click models, add new item. We're going to get out of this web area though, and we're going to go to data. Why? We're hooking up our database to our Visual Studio project. How cool is that? We're going to use the ADO.NET Entity Data Model to do it. And what should we name it? Let's call it movie or rental model. That's fine. Rental model. Whatever you want to call it. Okay. Hit add. And highlighted should be the EF designer from database. Cool. It says creates a model in the entity framework, that's what EF stands for, designer, based on an existing database. Yes, you can choose a database connection, settings for the model, and database objects to include in the model. So it's going to just hook up this database for us and create models. Wow, nice. Hit next. Now, here we go. Which data connection should your application use to connect to the database? Nothing's here. Click New Connection. Give it a moment. A new window will pop up. You may or may not have all of these. You might have more. Data source, we just used Microsoft SQL Server. We were in Management Studio creating these tables. But behind all of this creation of the tables, it's SQL Server. It's being stored in SQL Server. It's not a file, it's the server itself, okay? So it's not a database file. It's Microsoft SQL Server. This is all good. This is all good. Continue. Okay, so here's our data source. Good, good, good. Server name. If you click this, well, if you're like me, you won't see anything, even if you hit refresh. So what I want you to do, if you do see an area to choose your connection, yippee. Otherwise, what I want you to do is you can find your server right here, also right up in the title bar. But this is your server name. My server name is mel-win8 \SQL Express. Yours will be different than mine, no doubt, because I'm guessing your computer name isn't mel-win8. All right, so whatever this is, whatever this says, before you hit the parentheses, it says SQL Server 12.0, blah, 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 blah. Everything before the parentheses is the name of your server. So I'm going to go back to Visual Studio. I was in SQL Management Studio right there. I'm going to type my server name in here. mel-win8 \SQL Express. All right, good. I'm going to choose Windows authentication. Why? Because we're playing around right now. That's what I want. When I set up my SQL Server on my development machine, I chose Windows authentication. You can also choose to use SQL Server authentication if you'd like, though. And after this information is entered up here, go down to here, connect to database. Select or enter a database name. Well, this is nice because it auto-populates for you. And we just have to find Movies DB. That's what we created. All right, let's go ahead and test the connection. Yay, it succeeded. Hit OK. And it will show you a connection string. This is usually what you would put into your web.config file. However, we're asking Visual Studio to do this for us automatically by keeping this checked. So we're going to hit Next. And it's going to ask us, which of these database objects do we want to include? Well, we didn't create any views, so there's no arrow next to that. We didn't create any stored procedures or functions, so there's no arrow next to that. We did create tables. Just to show you, I can expand by clicking these arrows, and it will show me all the tables there. If I only wanted to select one, I could do that, but guess what? I'm going to select all three. So all I'm going to do is click the top, this top table right here. And it's going to name it Movies DB Model. That will be the model namespace. That's fine. Click Finish. Now it's going to think for a little bit as it attempts to get all the scripts going, hook up the database, create all the database models, and then we'll see a view like this. Oh my, I forgot something major. I forgot to include foreign keys. What do I do when I want to create a model for my website? I'm going to save this right now, by the way. But I need to alter my table. Well, let's go alter the table and I'll show you how to refresh that in a second. Okay, back to SQL Server Management Studio. We are going to add foreign key constraints. Foreign keys are simply, in one table, if you have a primary key from another table in it, it's called a foreign key. So let's look at the Reynolds table. Notice it has a primary key, cool. But customer ID, that's the primary key of the customers table. And movie ID, well, that's the primary key of the movies table. When they're in here, we want them to be foreign keys. We need to create a constraint for these. The foreign keys will reside in this rentals table right now. Let's expand this folder that says keys. Let's right click on it and then choose new foreign key. A new window appears. It has a whole bunch of things in it and it looks a little confusing. Don't let it confuse you. Go to Tables and Columns Specification and click on it. You'll see some ellipses appear over to the right. Click on that. Here we go. Here's what we need. Where's the primary key coming from? Well, let's do customers first. It's coming from the customers table. Now let's click on this area right here, and you'll see a drop-down will appear after you click on it, and you can click on the customer ID, or the primary key from the customers table that is included, that is a foreign key in the rentals table. Let's look over here in a foreign key table. Foreign key table will be rentals, but it's not going to be rental ID. It's going to be customer ID. Yes, we are joining the customer ID that's in the rentals table to the customer ID that's in the customers table. Look up here. SQL Server Management Studio automatically renamed this foreign key for us to FK, foreign key, rentals, customers. Cool. Rentals, customers. Good. Hit OK. And then you can add another if you want. We're going to add another right away. Click Add. Good. Click the ellipses. This one is going to have the movies ID from the movies table. That's the primary key table. And let's select movie ID. And the rentals table, it lives in there but is considered a foreign key in there. Select movie ID and then click OK. Woohoo, we have it. Hit close. Okay, now let's right click keys and let's refresh. Nothing's there. Why? Well, go back to your rentals table that's open right here and click Control S to save it. And look what you'll get. The following tables will be saved to your database. Yes, yes, we want to continue. Good. Now, let's right click on keys, hit refresh, and there you see them. Good. We're good to go. Now, since we've updated our SQL table, and this might include an update if you wanted to add another field, by the way, this is how you do it, the same process, okay? In Visual Studio, we're going to use this process where we refresh this model, EDMX file. over on the right, just to show you where it is, it lives right here, rentalmodel.edmx. That's this view. If you're not there, click it, go over to the main part of it, and on any empty space, right-click, and right around the middle, it will say Update Model from Database. Click that. Go to the middle tab, which says Refresh, and we're going to refresh tables. You can click on these if you'd like. You can click on individual tables. I'm just going to refresh all of them by clicking Tables, and I'm going to click Finish. Ah, there we go. Very good. Very good. Movie, customer, rental. I love how it thinks movies, singular is movie, M-O-V-Y. That's pretty funny. All right, we can move these around, but it doesn't do anything. But here you can see the joins a little bit better. Okay. And if you click at the connection in between them, they'll show you how in the movie table, the movie ID is the foreign key in the rental table. You can click this link too and see how customers are joined in the rental table. That's great. And yeah, that's all good. Anyways, let's go ahead and save this. Control S. Once you have this diagram, before you do anything else, Control S to save. It will take a second. You can also click the save icon up here, okay? But save it. After you've gotten to this point, save it every time you do this, okay? Every time you create the ADO connection, do this. All right, next thing is we're going to quickly do what's called scaffolding. We're going to create some controllers and scaffold some views. Before we do any of this, after we create a model, we want to build. If not, you'll get an error and you'll think, Melanie was right. I had to build. I forgot to build. No problem. Just exit out of whatever you're doing and go back and hit Control Shift B to build. You can also go up here and build it from the toolbar. Okay, I have the result of 1 succeeded. Yay. Good. Now Visual Studio knows about my model. So now I can go to Controllers. I'm going to right click on Controllers and I'm going to go to Add and then over to Controller. I want to create an MVC controller with views. This will scaffold all of the views, meaning create, read, update, and delete, and list views, okay? So I'm going to click that. I'm going to hit Add. Model Class. Groovy. Let's go see what we could do. You can either browse through it like this, or you can, like I like to do, start typing. Let's do Customer first. C-U-S. Oh, there it is. Customer. Good. Data Context Class. Well, let's see what's in there. Application DB context? No. Movies. Yes, movies, DB entities. Do you remember when one of the last steps was, what do we want to name? It's going to be called movies, DB entities, and we said, okay. There it is. Yes, that's the context class. Good. Yes, I want it to create views. Yes, please reference script libraries and use a layout page. I want it to use the default layout page that's defined in the view start file. Good. What do we want to call this? Customers controller. Fine. Hit Add. Right now it's creating the controller. Okay, and that's where the web page will make a request to a method in the controllers. So, for example, here's the index method. This is for the home controllers page. It will just return all of the database customers in a list. All right, and that will return it to the view. Let's go look at the views. Hey, look at all these that were created. Create, delete, details, edit, and index. Sweet. Okay, well, we're on a roll. Let's keep going. Let's create 2 more controllers. Let's create one. Let's right-click on controllers, add controller. Let's create one for movie, and we'll create another one for rentals. Same process. MVC 5 controller with views. Click Add. Model class, let's start just typing, MOV, there it is, movie, I love that movie, and movies, DB entities, yep, everything's good, click Add. Soon right here we'll see movies controller. Dun, dun, dun. It's creating a lot of files for us, but saving us a ton of time. And here's the movies controller again. Here's the index method. This will be the main movies page. And then the details section, controller, or the method for the controller. Create, when you're creating it. When you're creating it and posted, well, it's right here. When you're editing it, it's right here. This is for an edit after you've hit submit on the edit or posted that edit. Delete, same deal. After you've posted, yes, I want to delete it. All right, that's what's going on in there. And let's go look. Movies, views. Look at created all those views. Finally, let's just create a rentals view. Rentals controller, which will scaffold those views. Let's right click on the controllers folder again. Go to Add Controller. Again, MVC 5 controller. I hope this pattern is starting to stick with you. Hit Add. And R-E-N-T. There it is, rental. And I still want the same data context class. Okay, everything else is the same. It's going to be create a controller called rentals controller. Click Add. Again, same thing's going to happen. We're going to have a controller file that's going to handle all our requests from the web in regards to the rentals. Okay, and then it's going to create a whole bunch of views for us. Let's save. Everything is good to go. I'm going to minimize some of these so I don't have to see them. There we go. Good. All right. So if we wanted to, we could run the application. I'll do that. I'll hit F5 to run and debug this thing. What we're going to notice is that we're missing links to all the new things we just created, pages for the movies, the customers, and the rentals. It's taking a little while here. It's starting a web server up locally for us, and it's getting the pages ready, so it's normal to take a little bit of time. And yeah, I don't have links there. Why not? Well, I didn't adjust my views to show those links. So let me do this really fast. I'm going to, instead of saying getting started here, I'm going to put customers right here, and I'll change get more libraries. I'll change that to say movies, and finally the last one I'll change web hosting to say rentals, and maybe I'll change this a little bit. We're not going to get into views right now. This is again just trying to get you to do database first. Okay, so you can have fun with your views if you'd like later. Okay, let me go back to Visual Studio, and I'm going to click on Solution Explorer to open it up, and I want to go to Views, and I want to change the home page. Remember the home page? Well, that's under the Home folder, and home pages are named what? Index. I'm so glad they went back to, Microsoft went back to index versus the default. They changed it to default when it's everywhere else. The home page on a website is called index. So, all right, here's that Jumbotron. This is where it says the name of the title. It was in gray. Jumbotron is a Bootstrap class. Okay, Bootstrap is a library for CSS. Written by Twitter. Anyways, it's very useful. If you're in the boot camp, you will learn about it. Okay, let's change this to movie rental app. That's fine. Okay, and register customers, add movies, and check out rentals, whatever, from this app. Good. I'll delete this learn more. Okay. Remember I said I'm going to change these three things? Well, here we go. Let's add a link to customers here. I'm going to use what's called razor syntax. So I could go href equals, and then I could find the folder and create it there, but I don't want to. I don't want to link it directly up. I want to use razor syntax to do this for me in case anything changes at the end. So I'm going to use what's called an action link, okay? This is a web helper. So I use this @ symbol to get into razor mode, and then html.actionLink. That's action links, the method we're going to use. First thing is a string for the title, the link's title, and I'm going to call the link's title customers. Then we tell it the method we want it to hit in the controller, the movies controller. Remember the index method gets us to the main pages method. Well, that's where I want it to go. And then finally, what's the name of the view folder / controller, first part of the controller, and that is customers. We kept customers throughout the whole thing. So there we go. That's all we need to do. Now I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to find the next H2 in the next column. And here we go. And I'm going to change this instead of customers. I'm going to change it to movies. Again, my method is index and movies right there, controller, and finally the last column, paste it over here, and this is going to be rentals. Index, I want it to go to the main index page, yes, and rentals, there we go. I'm going to click Control S to save it. Notice I am still debugging. You can change things in the view like this if you're debugging. It doesn't hurt anything. As long as you don't change anything in the controllers or the models, that it won't let you do that. I'm going to go back to Google Chrome where I have my debugging session going on. It didn't update this automatically, so I'm going to refresh the page by going, clicking Control and then R. We'll refresh or reload. You could also click this icon up here. Lots of ways to do this. But notice, oh right, now I have some links. Let's click these links. Let me click Customers. And it's going to pause. It's going to take a little while. We have nothing listed yet, but we can create new, and here's a link. Create new. I'll put myself in. Mel McGee 555-555-1212. Good to go. And hit click create. Good, there I am. If I can edit the customer if I want, I can get specific details, or I can even delete. Alright, so now that I have one customer in there, let's go back to the home page and click movies. Let's add a movie. I'm going to show you how these are actually in the database. You'll like that. Movie, okay, we have to change this, but it's sort of funny right now. Birds, Hitchcock, genre, suspense. What other, you might have other fields that I don't. That's fine. Click create. Woohoo, there's a movie. Let's go back to home. Let's finally click rentals. Create new. Customer ID, look, it's doing first name. We'll just leave that for now. This might cause problems in the future. Movie ID, that's fine, is getting us the name of the movie. And date rented. You could spice this up by creating an input type of date in HTML using HTML5. I'm just going to keep it here for now. You can also use jQuery UI, and there's other plugins as well to get that really fun date field. So I'm going to put 11/1/2015 and click create, and there we go. Let's hop over to SQL Server Management Studio again and see what's going on in these tables. I'm going to right click on the DBO customers table, and I'm going to choose select top 1000 rows. Okay, here we go. Hey, there I am. All right, see, it hooked it up. I'm going to do the same for movies. Right click on movies and select top 1000 rows. That's fine, and there I go. You could also see rentals the same exact way. Let's do this again. Right click, select top 1000 rows, and it will show you that. Alright, here's the actual SQL query. Alright, up here. but we're using the WYSIWYG, the what you see is what you get kind of components to do this for us. Okay, so we know it's hooked up to our database. It's being stored in our SQL Server database. We are very happy, except we want to change. I want to add more to the rentals view. The rentals view, I'm a little upset by that. So I'm going to click rentals. I'm going to expand that folder, and I'm going to find that index.chtml file. That's that main page we go to. And I'm going to change the HTML in here. This is again using some Razor syntax and some web helpers, but you can probably see what's going on. This is standard HTML. So HTML has been around for a long time. Table, okay, the table element, TR, that's a table row, and TH stands for table heading. So this is the top heading of the table. Let me show you what I mean. That's this stuff right here. Okay, that's what it's doing. And then that's a row, and then we're telling it to go through all the other rows and put the values. These are TDs right here, TD, 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 okay, which is basically a table cell. Let's go back. Let's continue editing. What I want to do is I want to add the last name to this list, and I want to add the customer's phone. So right here after first name, I'm just copying and pasting. I'm going to paste display name for model, good, at models up here, good, dot customer, cool, dot, instead of first name, I'm just going to delete that. I'm going to put dot, and you'll see this is great. We have IntelliSense. I'm going to choose last name. All right, good. Now let's do the phone. Again, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it right underneath it, and let's use IntelliSense again, although we don't need to. I'm going to show it to you again. Let me back up all the way to model. Model dot, ooh, here's the customer collection. Yes, customer, and we're going to choose phone right here. All right, and we'll keep the movie title there. That's all good. All right. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Now these are the rows that correspond to those headings. So let's add the last name and the phone to these rows in the correct proper order. Just doing this quickly. Last name and phone. Good. Okie dokie. Movie title. What else did I didn't like something else. Well, you could change the name of that page. Movie rentals. Save it. Okay, again, since I'm in the view, I'm all good to go. I don't have to stop debugging. I still have my debugger going. I'm going to go back to my debugging session, which I have open in Google Chrome. I'm going to click Control and R to refresh. And there we go. Date runted, first name, last name, phone, and title. Okay, there are many other things you can do with this. You can access the different pieces, parts of the database by using that in Visual Studio in your view, by using this formula right here. This is display name for, and this is the actual value. Okay, so just go ahead and knock yourself out. You can have fun using these ingredients and combining them with HTML if you'd like, and that should get you started. And after that, there's lots of places you could go to learn more. All right. Well, take care. I hope you enjoyed this introduction to MVC, data first, database first, and creating some tables in a database in SQL Server Management Studio. Take care. Bye-bye.